So once we've finished retopologizing our mesh, we want to basically project our high resolution onto our low resolution mesh that we've created. And one route that I have actually found works pretty well with the Mac version of ZBrush, and sometimes can work with the PC version. It really just depends on the computing power that you're allotted based on your hardware. Is a procedure where you basically append your low-res mesh to your high-res mesh. But first we have to make sure that this particular retop worked out really well. And sometimes you'll have holes in the mesh where, say for instance, you've kind of created an extruded version or extruded portion of, say, the mesh here. Maybe you put a, and I'll zoom in on this for a second. Maybe you put a line here to here to here to here, and then a line to here, and made another 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 polygons right there. Sometimes there'll be holes in the mesh when you create stuff like that, because the ZBrush program assumes that you have an actual polygon underneath, and for some reason creates a kind of a mess up in the mesh. But it's nothing that you can't get around. There are plenty of workarounds. I, however, didn't have any in my mesh, so we should be fine. However, you do notice some pieces down here in the ankle area where I have actually created a similar kind of idea. But in order to check to see if the mesh is okay, we're going to go up to our adaptive skin, open it up, which is only under the Z spheres, and we're going to hit preview. Now we can raise our density however high you want, but for right now we're just using it for preview purposes, so we don't really need to take it up too high. And we're going to kind of go around our sculpt here, our retop, and it looks pretty good. Now granted, some projects may not have the head included in the body, only because you want to have morph targets for animation purposes added later in Maya or whatever 3D CAD program you're using. This is, however, a very simple, not so complex model, so we can basically put it all in one, kind of give you a general view of what the whole body might look like, and a much quicker process for the video purpose. And it looks like we're doing okay, so I don't need to change anything. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take it back out of preview mode, and we're going to create make adaptive skin. Now you can utilize some of these tools up here to try to change some of the areas, but that's up to you completely. We can also use ZBrush 3.0's version of skinning to make an adaptive skin as well, but we're going to use the 4.0 version and hit make adaptive skin. That's going to throw a skin up in the tools palette you can choose from here, but we're going to actually choose the high resolution mesh, which takes a second because there is a lot more resolution to it. And we're going to take that low res and append it. Now we could go into it and rename it. And what we're going to do is make sure that this is selected, our low res, and we're going to project the high res onto the low res mesh. And the way we do that I have found, and this is one easy way that works really well with the Mac version of ZBrush 4.0 or higher, is to project it through this little palette down here, similar to what we did with the remesh earlier, in order to create a better, more clean mesh for the high res. But you can play around with some of these. This is basically some areas that can get you closer to some of the areas that are further away, and there's buttons down here that you can actually push in order to get a better projection. Sometimes it gets a little haywire. Make sure that these are off. You may need them on. You can put a little bit of a blur on it so that it's not so defined. But basically I stick with the default and go from there. You can do whatever you want. And we're going to go ahead and hit project. This is actually going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to pause the video and then come back in after that. Okay, now as you can see, we hit the project all button. Come up here, make sure that our low res is selected, come down here to our subdivision levels, and as you can see, we now have 7 subdivision levels. And we can bring it down and choose one of these.